Good afternoon, everybody. Here to talk about today's Thursday episode of Beyond the Gates. And I must say, today was definitely soap opera goodness. Now, I still have my worries about the story I talked about most yesterday and the fallout of that today. But I want to start with the Dani and Andre drama, which of course leads to some Bill and Dani drama, which I always love. So, a picture comes out from the Anita impersonator in Vegas about Andre and Dani's little wedding. So, Nicole had found that online and went to do damage control with her parents. Of course, Vernon and Anita always like to do damage control because of the image of the Duprees. And so they have to call a publicist to try and keep it away from the press, but unfortunately that's already out of the bag. So Dani and Andre had returned. Dani's still hungover apparently. I did enjoy the line of Dani asking Andre if she needs AA because who gets blackout drunk like that? Like Dani hasn't been doing that the entire time the show has been on. So Andre's response should have been yes. Yes, you do need AA, and I do think Dani probably does someday. But they're back, and Dani was hoping that her family wouldn't find out. She did want what happened in Vegas to stay in Vegas. And Andre was thinking that maybe Dani was more so afraid of Bill finding out. That's why Andre thought Dani was wanting to be so secret about this. Either way, Dani was going to call the lawyer to get all of this annulled and get that settled quickly. But that's when Nicole gave Andre a ring to have him come over and face the music. Andre didn't know that's exactly what it was going to be about, although I'm sure he had a little feeling. He goes over. I did enjoy the line of when he calls Nicole auntie. She says, "Don't you mean sister-in-law?" And then Vernon and Anita kind of chew Andre out. Now, Andre was trying to take the fall for Dani, like this wasn't Dani's fault. And Vernon and Anita, in typical Dupree fashion, are definitely trying to make Andre the bad guy in this situation, like Dani's not always the one out of control. Luckily, Nicole knows that this is how Dani is always spiraling out and says it's on brand for Dani and that Andre's just trying to let Dani off the hook. Andre did tell them that Dani is getting the marriage annulled, but little did Andre know that Dani was going to have a visit of her own. Now, Haley is another one that found the photo online, although I do want to say the show started with Haley on the phone, working from home today, allegedly talking to Caroline on the phone and gossiping about could Vanessa and Joey be sleeping together. I believe she was probably really talking to Randy, since Randy and Doug were having those conversations about the person Randy knows that could help really see how Bill is feeling about the situation. Bill kept telling Haley, even in today's episode, that whatever the rumor is about Vanessa and Joey is not true. Now, of course, we'll circle back to the Joey and Vanessa and Doug stuff here in a second. But when Bill finds out through Haley that there's a photo online of Dani and Andre in Vegas getting married, Bill is, of course, not a happy camper, especially since he had just went on and on to Haley how it's going to take Dani a while to really move on from him, even though they've been divorced for a while, and that men have an easier time moving on from relationships than women. Of course, Haley throws that in his face after she shows him the picture, after he was just going on about how she's going to take a while to move on. Haley said she's happy that Dani is moving on, but she notices it's bothering Bill. Now, we all know Haley's only happy that Dani is moving on because she wants Dani out of her hair, and so she can put her jealousy aside of what's really going on between Bill and Dani. But I don't think Bill's reaction to this helped anything. Bill was really trying hard to act like he's not concerned for for Dani. He doesn't care that Dani married Andre. It's just how this is going to affect his children. And Haley did a good job of calling him out that Chelsea and Naomi are adults. But his excuse was that Chelsea just went through this whole ordeal. She was just getting better, getting back to her life, and now Dani goes and makes herself the center of attention and screws that up again. But really, I think Bill's jealousy that Dani may have actually moved on and married someone else was definitely what was actually bothering him. He was so upset that when he allegedly was leaving to work, he left his briefcase behind, and that's because he wasn't going to work. He was going to confront Dani. Bill let it known that the photo was out, that he's upset with her for marrying a man half her age. Like, that wasn't the most hypocritical statement on this show, because Bill and Haley started the show with him marrying a woman half his age, a woman that was one of his daughter's friends. So Bill, in this whole argument with Dani today, was quite the hypocrite, wanting an explanation for Dani's idiocy. And, you know, I'm always, not always, but most of the time I'm Team Bill, because I do find him entertaining. Bill and Leslie are always characters, and Eva too, I guess, that I probably defend more than others. But through the history of the show, whenever it comes down to a Bill and Dani argument, I always take Dani's side. And once again, I think Dani was better in this argument, not just because her lines were great. I liked when Dani said she doesn't have to explain anything to Bill anymore, and said to go back to his child bride, who probably needs help slicing bananas for her frosted flakes. That was a good line. But Bill just continued to be a hypocrite in that argument the more it went on, saying she needs to get the marriage annulled before the kids find out, which is already what Dani was planning anyway. But of course, when Bill wants to force her to do this, she was clearly happy when Bill left, because I think Dani knows how upset and passionate Bill feels about this, and probably sees the jealousy. So when Andre comes back, Dani tells Andre she's had a change of heart, and asks him how he feels about remaining married a little bit longer. So this is what I wanted out of the storyline I've been saying all week. Bill's reaction to this, and what it really is going to mean for Bill and Dani. And I enjoyed everything we got from this today. Bill went back home to get his briefcase and had to tell Haley he didn't go to work. He went to go see Dani, so we know that's not going to be great fallout for Haley. So yeah, this marriage with Andre and Dani is probably going to cause way more problems for Bill and Haley, which is what Dani would love ultimately anyway. But really good stuff from these scenes today. Now, the other very big story, of course, coming off of yesterday's episode is the death of Doug, really the murder of Doug. Jacob is the one who is trying to get a hold of Vanessa, who is off on her getaway with old Joey, starting the episode with more sex between these two. I mean, Joey and his old age must be on such a big supply of Viagra, because that's the only thing really that makes sense for those two's love interest, or I guess love sessions, because Joey is an old ass man, which is why I know some people in the comments like Hemi can never get behind these Joey and Vanessa scenes. But that's how our show started today. Once Vanessa calls Jacob back, she gets the news that Doug was in a car accident and is dead. And this is what I talked about yesterday. I think the actress, I forget her name, it's a very Italian name. I want to say Laura Bulgogoli or something. Anyway, whoever the actress is that plays Vanessa did a great job today. But it's really hard in these circumstances for me to care about her emotions with Doug now being gone, with the way everything has gone down. And she's been saying she was going to stay away from Joey personally, didn't. Yes, in yesterday's episode, we felt the emotion when Doug was on the phone with her, and Joey made it be heard that he was with Vanessa. Doug was, of course, devastated by that. So, all of Vanessa's emotions today, my face when I was watching the episode, anytime Vanessa was on today, was probably something like this. Just really, really. It's hard for me to give a shit about anything Vanessa is feeling, which is the hardest part I'm going to have with the aftermath of the story. You add on to the fact that Joey is going to use all of this to just reel in Vanessa closer. Now, she did question today if he had anything to do with it, but of course he played it off and was okay with her asking that question because she's just going through grief. Vanessa definitely had a day of grief and trying to mourn Bill, at one point ranting and raving about how stupid it was for him to be drinking. After that, it's when she questioned Joey if he had a hand in this because he had been pushing Doug's buttons lately. Joey adamantly said he had nothing to do with it and was there just to comfort her. And she even said she doesn't know how she's going to get through this without him. So Joey's plan definitely worked wonders. We'll see how long he could keep it up. I don't know. The longer the story is dragged on, is the more it's going to get on my nerves. That's kind of going to be my problem with it because it's really hard for me to not hate Joey and Vanessa going forward. I think that's going to be the hardest part for the aftermath of this story. Jacob, of course, is, as I said yesterday, our one hero on the show, but he's a hero that is very slow. So him getting to the bottom of this is going to take forever. Malone kept listening all in on Jacob's conversations today when he was calling Vanessa, being very nosy about Jacob's paperwork. Something was bothering Jacob at one point. Why would Doug, a smart, although Doug wasn't smart, but he's asking why a smart surgeon like Doug would be speeding down the highway and not call a rideshare so early in the morning when he's drunk. I mean, a good question, but I don't know when Jacob's going to find that answer. But yeah, Malone kept rushing Jacob through his paperwork. Jacob and Malone just had a confrontation yesterday. Hopefully, and Doug went to Jacob at one point regarding Joey. So if Jacob wasn't the slow-ass cop that he is, maybe he could put it together that Joey could have had something to do with this. He knows Malone works for Joey. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to try and put these threads together, especially if you're supposed to be a good cop. But it is a soap opera, and cops on soap operas are usually dumb, so we'll see how long it takes Jacob to find any of this out. But by the end, Malone called Joey to tell him that everything is clear. Everything worked out the way Joey wanted it to. And so for now, and probably for the foreseeable future, Joey's going to be able to continue to keep up this charade that he had nothing to do with Doug's death and keep Vanessa on a leash maybe for a while too. Hopefully now we'll get to see Vanessa and Doug's children, but I still contend, like I've been saying for a week or two, that if they're going to kill Doug off, we should see the children beforehand. Will we even see it afterwards? I'm not convinced, but I think it would mean more for the characters. It can't mean more for Doug anymore. Maybe it could mean more for Vanessa. She's going to need someone besides just Nicole. Because if she's just stuck in Joey's orbit, I don't really know how much legs the aftermath of this story actually has. But today, everything was very good. Very soapy. And the Dani and Bill scenes were fire like usual. Those two have the best chemistry on the show and continue to have it.